All right, welcome back to another Slice of Life episode of, Slice of Life. All right, this is going to be a Friday episode, and we've got to, on our hands here, employment. Badge upload, I got. So, employment, employee and family assistance program. The theme here is mostly going to be my current workplace. And the benefits that are available. Okay, it's not going to be not the entire episode. Today is going to be on benefits, but we're going to start off with that, and that's going to be the major theme. So, when you work, depending on whether or not you're working part-time, full-time, you get benefits. And so the company that I work for, a large corporation, right, it's clearly has a lot of perks. Now, whether or not they're fully useful depends on which perk you refer to, and this one is the EFAP, or it's kind of funny when it says it's like EFAP, Employee and Family Assistance Program by Morneau Chappelle. And what that is it provides you counselors, right? If you have a family and you're going through difficult times, managing and budgeting, you're falling into debt, there are interpersonal relationship issues, you're having troubles with your spouse, and that's getting in the way of you coming to work. It's too much to manage with like 3 kids, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out in your personal life, and that's affecting your work life, or vice versa. Long story short, there are counselors afoot. So Morneau Chappelle, right? And apparently it's not. We'll get to it, but it doesn't seem to be very reliable. But we'll take a look just based off reviews and ratings. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Hopefully they've updated. This is one of those old benefits from the 1980s and 90s and stuff like that, where the benefits they offer. Yeah, as a counselor at the time, it was kind of like, oh, that's great. That's better than nothing. Other companies at the time wouldn't offer you any benefits at all, or any partnerships with. If you work for a large enough, let's say, corporation or a company that gave you benefits like these, you would take it because it's better than having nothing. Because most companies at the time, workplaces just didn't have mental health counseling or anything like that, let alone general life counseling. Nowadays, in 2020s, this is really outdated. But back then, this was considered kind of not revolutionary, but it was that's good to have, because otherwise you wouldn't have it at all. So let's just read this PDF. What are the counselors' backgrounds? If you can't tell, I'm happy you're reading this. I don't want to be talking more about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very boring unless it's a storytelling thing. It's better to do a storytelling stuff, because LinkedIn is all about connections, I would say. But slogging through the administrative bullshit was annoying. And then I just had a bad time because I didn't take a shower. It's time to take a shower. All right, what are the counselors' backgrounds? Morneau Chappelle's counselors are social workers, psychologists, and addictions counselors who come with a master's degree. They all need to have minimum of 5 years of experience in a similar field of counseling. So will counselors make house calls? No, generally else. There's FAQ, right? So I scroll down here. Do you have to speak with a counselor in person? How likely am I to run into a fellow employee at a counseling office? This simply will not happen. Will the counselor be willing to talk, next page, to other professionals that I or my family may be seeking? It's a rare occasion, but it might be possible. What if my assigned counselor is unavailable and I have a crisis? 24/7, 365 days a year. So connect with us for confidential support to learn more. Furthermore, what hours of the day is counseling available? Again, during all times of the day, but counseling. When is counseling available? 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. sessions, usually, 9 to 5. And management force an employee to go for counseling? No, that's absolutely not. It's confidential, completely voluntary. How many sessions can be scheduled? Is there any cost? Most of this is just, it makes you referrals. So we'll send you to appropriate specialists. They don't directly help you necessarily. They might listen to your concerns and then refer you to other agencies and organizations. How to make an appointment? To make an appointment, simply call the toll-free telephone line. Toll-free telephone line. at the bottom. And how can an employee evaluate the service? Right, so you're given a satisfaction survey if you so wish to. I don't know why you would want to do that. Honestly, who really wants to fill surveys, feedback surveys? But anyways, that's Morneau Chappelle, and so that's it. Incorporated 2017. Okay, maybe this is kind of novel. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of close this here. That's a benefit. All right, so now we're gonna switch gears a little bit. This is some research I was talking about not too long ago, probably 2-3 weeks back. But for me, I feel like I just recorded it yesterday. I did just record it yesterday. I was talking about how in my corporation, my company, the company I work for, it's not my company, obviously. I was trying to compare sales between departments, see what I could do to lower costs, if at all, and what I can do to get more hours for my team, for teammates, colleagues within my department. Wasn't particularly successful. Obviously, I'm just gathering information. This is just the information gathering stage. And I went to seek internal documents. Again, everything there was classified, and I didn't show any images unless it was, I showed nothing basically, except for like a Copilot AI prompt and the dashboard. I think like certain segments of that. That's it. Everything else, like 95% of those like 4 or 5 episodes, were completely blotted out. I couldn't even talk about most of the topics directly. So I just talked around the themes. Anyways, here we are. So this is when I want to search. Sorry, there's some shit on my nose right now. Ugh. So this is when I searched up. I was trying to search online and externally, outside. So external news articles kept popping up from CBC instead of internal. So Loblaw profits up by 30%, led by booming sales, above average profits. Videos here, CBC News coverage. And nothing was particularly promising until I went down here. So reports Loblaw for 2022 fourth quarter results and fiscal year. Now that's helpful, but I wasn't so confident on whether or not they would have what I need, because we're looking for a store-by-store breakdown. We're trying to compare different stores within the same subsidiary, and they have multiple subsidiaries and multiple stores. If they usually do a fiscal analysis, they don't break it down to that level of transparency. It's usually the whole company spread across the entire year. They don't even break it down by the divisions, so the subsidiaries they don't even distinguish between subsidiaries. So Shoppers Drug Mart, subsidiary, so there's no frills. So they kind of lump in together pharmaceuticals as well as grocery, and it's like, what the hell? And then you basically don't get very much insight at all. So here's a search query. So I click on the fiscal report. So click on the fiscal report, and here it says you can download the releases. It's from directly the website. Let's see, releases February 2020, 2024. February 22nd, 2024. So you can download the Q4 fourth quarter report 2023 release as well. So going all the way up. So about careers, news, investors, and responsibilities. So our stories, releases, and statements. So I'll go down here. Loblaw's reports 2023 fourth quarter results and fiscal year ended December 30th, 2023 results. So it's been a good year. So Loblaw opens 31 new Maxi and No Frills stores. So these are subsidiaries, franchise within. In 2023, bringing lower prices, like they're different divisions, right, within the same company, bringing lower prices and more value to hundreds of thousands. Now, of course, this is obviously, it's like PR, right? Understand that they are going to paint in a more positive light. This is just marketing, right? So keep in mind, it's going to be like, it's biased, obviously, right? It's meant to be biased. but let's just take it for what it is. It's a piece of marketing, so we'll read a piece of marketing. They're trying to present a positive outlook for their investors. So hundreds of thousands more Canadian, fourth quarter revenue grew by 3.7%, and net earnings increased 2.3%. I feel like I'm being one of those like news reporters covering the TSX, the composite index, S&P 500. Okay, so going further down, right, quarter strong growth, sales, and then the CEO, we are very pleased to deliver another year of consistent operational and financial performance, reflecting our ongoing focus on retail excellence, as said Perbank, President and CEO of Law's company, LCL. Continue to recognize our superior value and service we provide across our network, something all 220,000 of our colleagues are proud to deliver each year. Not necessarily true. I can tell you a lot of our colleagues are pretty pissed off, but it's like, but anyways, it's just, it's different levels of management, right? At the very bottom, it's always difficult to keep the store running with not enough hours, and then it's like stuff like that. But anyways, so 2023 fourth quarter highlights. Revenue was 14.531 million, which is 14.5 billion, an increase of $524 million, or 3.7%. Bullet points, right? So fourth quarter highlights. Retail segment sales were 14,157 million, an increase of 463 million. Food retail subpoint sales increased by 2.0%. Drug retail, Shoppers Drug Mart, same store sales increased by 4.5%. I'm not going to go through all the stats here, but they basically list out everything. E-commerce sales 14.6. Operating income 943 million. Adjusted EBITDA, I don't even know what that means, and you probably would know this if you're a stock market exchange financial analyst and you have a background in finance, you probably understand this. Same thing with accounting or corporate finance. You can go ahead and just like tell me what all this shit means down below if you want. I don't know. Net earnings, diluted net earnings per common share, $1.72, increase of 10 cents or 6.2%. Select annual highlights in 2023. Revenue was like 59 billion, increase of 3 billion or 5.4%. Food retail same store sales increased 3.9%. Drug retail 5.4%, and diluted net earnings, adjusted net earnings, net capital investments going all the way down. Of course, some of this involves real estate as well. So I did download it, and I gotta say, I don't think it was very promising because, like I said, I couldn't compare same store sales. So let's see about that. All right, here we go. Bingo. So blah blah companies. Limited news release. Reports 2023 fourth quarter results, and it's let's see, 22-page document, Adobe PDF. Very pleased to deliver another excellent year. All the stats here, just basic. They copy pasted obviously just from here. The stats, the most important highlights straight up onto. Now this is all publicly available information. You can literally just Google this or Bing this, and it'll pop up. You can find the fiscal annual report. As a result, like I said, I'm not concerned about showing this. This is all public information about the private details that they're openly disclosing to the public. It's okay, so and here's all the accounting. Like, I have no idea how all this works. Again, if you're an accountant, well, this is relevant now because it's income tax, and I covered several episodes where I talked about income tax myself, returns. It's income tax season. So I guess they're doing their thing right now. Business taxes last all the way up to June. If you're just filing for your own taxes, you have until April, the end of April. So, or beginning of April, I can't remember. I think it's the end of April, April 31st. Retail segments, so now they break down, the values and everything. So I'm not going to read all this strategic update and outlook for the investors. So retail excellence, driving growth, investing for the future, and their outlook. So you can find this document, just go search it up if you want. It's entirely up to you. But I'm not going to dive through it. All I'm going to say is I didn't find the information that I was looking for, and it's a shame, but I expected it. So let's cover something more relevant then. Well, I wouldn't say more relevant actually, but it's on the same topic, but it's relevant. So a lot of people had some really strong opinions about, about this store, about this corporation. And honestly, I don't really blame them, because like the PR hasn't been too great. I don't really know what to say about it. I wouldn't say that. I was less, I don't know. I felt like it was a bit of a smear campaign for sure, and maybe they kind of deserved it. I don't really know, but definitely, there was some shady stuff going on in the backdrop with monopolizing the real estate, and also as well as price fixing bread, and just taking advantage of the pandemic to increase consumer prices and reap profits. Now I will say that it was definitely, in my opinion, exaggerated, which is why I had a more grounded position. I wasn't anywhere near as angry. There were people who wanted to boycott the company, and I think that's up to them, right? Honestly, I have a more neutral position on this. I think that I need more information from multiple sides to come to a conclusion. So anyways, so here's a Reddit post, right? So I obviously some strong opinions here, and there's some guy here saying he's broken down he's done some calculations. So he says, as the title says, I reviewed the latest quarterly financial statements on the major grocery chain and in the US. I compiled the gross margins. Typically basically shows how much a company marks up their merchandise profit, isn't their net profit, just what the potential is if they didn't have expenses. Anyways, here's what he found. Again, this is one individual's calculations. Take it with a grain of salt. But anyways, here's what I found. Costco, Metro, Kroger's, Walmart, Loblaws, Albertsons, and they just rank it from high up. And they're basically trying to say that Loblaws really marks up their products. And, once again, there are opinions down here who there's a lot of majority support for this. So if I go down here, right, the OP, the person who posted this, seems to be very strongly against Loblaws, and so are a lot of posts down here. So this is what people need to understand and make sense of it. It was a very sensational thing in my country, right? And it was a big thing during the COVID. People are trying to get essential needs like food, clothing, and stuff like that, and shelter. So that's why it was so, it was very, very, what would you say, polarizing. It's a very heated, that's right there, the words, is very controversial, heated, very emotionally charged topic. People felt very strongly for or against, most people against, right? Very sensational, this topic. So down here, Antonio Fauci, right? So there's some back and forth here. My pleasure. Have some time to stand up to greed, right? This guy's out here openly declaring that it's greed. Their opinion, that's okay. They're allowed to say that. And I'm not saying that I agree with them, agree with the people who are defending Loblaws either. I'm not saying that I don't really defend them either. I'm pretty sure there is a lot of sketchy corruption, like in any major corporation. So, but I feel like it definitely probably was exaggerated. But I just take a more neutral take. That's all I'm gonna say. So executives do realistically shady PR, communications, operations, can torture. Well, yeah. Thank you, validation. Validation is not good, guys. You don't want validation all the time. That's just gonna make you more, narrow-minded. That's not a good thing. You don't this is everything that you don't want to do with social media. You're not supposed to develop. You're not supposed to consistently reinforce your beliefs. That's the worst thing you can do. You want a more realistic, multifaceted, multiple perspectives. You don't want to get but it's Reddit. Of course, people on Reddit are very charged at times. Oh God, compare that to Twitter. Twitter is very emotionally charged, so it's social media, it really just polarizes people. TikTok, oh my God, I don't know what. Social media is just, oh, fuck all. Anyways, down here, more opinions. Now, I learn a lot though. I definitely like the professional opinions here. So people here giving many different points. They're good arguments. I believe they're valid points and good arguments. So for example here, Jaded says, I'd be wary of what they claim to be overhead since they own all the real estate. They can bury some of the profit and thereby changing up rental costs that they pay themselves. And then someone here rebukes it with a little bit. He says, but they don't own it. Choice Properties owns it, owned by a Western company. But he says that even so, though, they still can extract profit by jacking up rent on stores that aren't doing well and then offsetting those costs with expensive rental locations. So really, that's just a scheme, right? It's a scheme, and it's a good strategy. That's the way you can look at it. For you can look like positive. It looks like, it's a clever strategy from a business perspective, and then from the consumer perspective, it's like, you're kind of hiding profits from the public. Going down here, so here's someone who is like rebuking against, and there's a substantial amount of people who are in support of this, this counter argument. So you can't fairly rank Costco in comparison, because Costco, their profit is basically membership fees. It's a completely different business model, which you said you excluded. They run gross margins at rates to cover costs. And so, again, there's some back and forth, right? As usual, it's a debate, and people are giving arguments and opposing arguments. So, yeah. Anyways, it goes all the way down here. Yeah, I think it's a pretty long post. So, I think I really like the small posts here that have more nuance, especially. I mean, the larger posts that are further down but have fewer upvotes, because they go, it's always the ones that are kind of like less popular that give a more objective take. So are these numbers Loblaws as a whole or just a banner? Because as a banner, it's always been more expensive on par with in terms of costs, and on par with Metro and Sobeys, Farm Boy, and Foodland. But that can be used to explain away for all of them, as they have higher operating costs due to what they offer versus discount stores. For example, you're not going to walk into a No Frills and buy a lobster or get you to cut you a steak. Those just aren't the services that are offered. The concept of No Frills is that No Frills is where extra costs were stripped away in exchange for lower prices, right? And so anyways, here's a person arguing for more objective take. And so anyways, I'm just gonna leave it at that. So we've read a lot here, and I don't really want to spend that much time on this single tab, so I'm gonna close it. All right, so I guess this is mildly relevant. It's not directly relevant, but I used to work for, I worked at several different stores now at this point for this corporation. Not many, just like 2 or 3. And the first one I worked for was like in this area here. It's called the Danforth. If you know, you know. It's a great like East entertainment. It's like old town kind of entertainment. A lot of restaurants, a lot of food chains. And there's a store there that they converted. And when they converted to a different subsidiary within the chain, I moved into a different store. So anyways, I just want to show you that, of course, I've got Google Maps open, and I was interested in looking at the reviews, just a general, what do people think about the stores. Obviously the one that I used to work for was smaller, and the ratings were much poorer, right? It's like 3.5 star. Now the store that I'm at is like 4.3, so out of 5. So that's pretty good. That's like 86% approval rating, just on Google. But anyways, you would just take reviews before you would take them with a grain of salt, and you still probably should. I would say, like anything online, you still should, exercise some critical thinking and some reserved judgment. But anyways, so this is just Google Maps. I was actually looking for a small dollar store here, home and pop run, not the franchise one. That's also next to the store that I used to work at, so that's why that's here. And now we're gonna really get to something kind of like food related, because I think there's like spoilage I was searching up. All right. I don't know how relevant this is, but basically, yeah, it's food spoilage. So one of the things I purchased, right, so it's really nice if you go to like the lower discount, like you can, I think it's really affordable. You just need to be a smart consumer. You can still survive. It's quite, you're in a first world country, buddy, right? We're all fairly lucky if we're in a first world country. Like, let's not complain too much, right? Basically, you can buy a whole pack of like 40, like, so now it's not healthy for you, obviously. Those things are like probably have more salt than there should be. There's probably more preservatives, but basically like no name brand sausages you can buy a whole pack of like 50 sausages just for like $5 plus tax, which is like $6 or like 565. So and it will last for, you know, honestly, if you keep it in the fridge for you know, preserve it properly, don't leave it out there on the kitchen sink for like 2 hours or whatever, you know, just put it back in the fridge. It will last for like 3-4 months. And so at the very end, I knew that some of it would eventually start to spoil because I can't eat all of that, right? It's like 50 sausages. So I just want to show you a little bit, I guess, of like food spoilage. And it's kind of relevant too because the theme of food spoilage is important. I work in the dairy department, frozen, grocery as well. But in specifically one of the departments I work in, our food spoils really quickly because, you know, there's expiry date of like a couple weeks. That's what happens when it comes to yogurt and cheese. So we always have to be on our A game there just to make sure that, you know, everything's rotated. It's very hard. We can't really get it done all the time, unfortunately, because it's called rotation, right? We rotate first in, first out, but there's not enough labor. They're saying that we're not earning enough at our store, right? I already alluded to this, to justify the hours. You don't know how true this is. It may or may not be, but for whatever reason, so we just don't have enough hours and wages given to our staff in a department specifically. And overall, the whole store, I would say, a lot of my colleagues in other departments are experiencing the same, you know, challenges, right? There's just not enough hours being given. And that's because sales are kind of down, right? Which is to be expected because there are so many reasons, like, you know, pandemic and, you know, disrupted supply chains, you know, probably some human error, probably some corruption. Everything's just expensive due to inflation, right? So people are buying less, or there are other competitors that, you know, are discounted stores, right? So they will go to the cheaper stores. Very understandable. I do the same, right? People are trying to work within their means. It's not like we're in a recession, but we're definitely not booming. It's not booming economic times anymore, for sure. So anyways, things kind of like, we don't have enough time to rotate. And so sometimes, unfortunately, we have to put things on 50% discount, which is good for the consumer, but that's a loss for the company, for sure, a loss of product. So that's fine, whatever. Like, you don't really have to care too much. It's a huge ass corporation. Who cares if you like lose a little bit here? But the point is, you know, on the job, I deal with a lot of spoilage, right? So I always pull the device out. We do a lot of scrapping, we call it reclamation. I pull out the device, you know, do inventory PI. And so here, again, it's kind of relevant, right? I had like some food in my fridge that was like starting to spoil a little bit. There's like a bag of sausages. I had like maybe I ate most of it. There was just like 2 or 3 left, and I wanted to see, you know, like it's starting to look kind of like grayish. So I didn't want to eat it. I wanted to see what if it was really spoiling. So I just searched up very easily. So just go on Bing, how to tell if sausages are bad, the foods guide, the blog, related questions. We hope you find this guide to be determining whether sausage has gone bad. Just, you know, this is one thing, you know, when you're cooking, you probably know that canned meat usually is always cooked because they just have to by legislature and regulations. You have to cook it because you don't want to risk someone opening a can and just, unless they mark it down, that's going to be raw. But canned fish, canned sardines, canned ham, canned tuna, canned sausages, canned ham, all that is cooked, pre-cooked. You still should, I would say, heat it to, you know, you should still cook it a second time just to be sure. That's always the safest bet. But you can technically eat it straight out and have a reasonable chance of not getting sick. But again, I would always encourage you, and any food blogger or whatever will always encourage you to cook it a second time just to make sure, right, that you don't get food poisoning and diarrhea, because that shit sucks. All right, so how to tell the sausage is bad, foods guide. So I clicked on that blog, and we are at the foods guy blog, and it says, you know, related questions. So I just scrolled through the whole thing, but long story short, in fact, yeah, my food was spoiled. So how to tell if sausage is bad, right? Blog post by Jaron. It's a versatile food, can be used a lot of different ways. You have sausage links, patties, ground sausage, Italian sausage, and more. Enjoy breakfast, just go through it. But how do you tell if it's bad? Well, they bold the text, but if the uncooked sausage has a gray or off-white color, which is what I saw, and a tinge of green instead of a normal pink hue, as well as a sour scent, and the sausage has gone bad and must be thrown out. For cooked sausages, it's much easier to tell by the smell. I couldn't smell anything, thank God. I didn't want to smell it. The fuck? Why would I want to smell sausage? It's got a dirty joke there. How can you tell if the sausage is bad? Complete guide. In most cases will be a visual inspection. That's enough. A sniff test. Visual inspection indicator is bad is if it's turning slightly gray. Harmful bacteria. You can cut off. You have two options: cut off the gray portions and use the rest, or you can just toss it all. But I would just toss it all. Coming from biomed, I'm a microbiologist, immunologist at heart, so I'll tell you from a public health and safety standpoint, just toss the fucking thing out. Just get rid of it. All right, don't even risk it. Don't do it. That's even more true when it comes to fruit and vegetables, because if there's mold actually will grow through underneath. So you try to take a knife and just cut off a portion, right? It's actually, the mold has grown inside. The majority of it has grown inside. The fungus has grown inside the food product. You won't be able to see it. So you should just toss the whole thing out just to be safe, okay? But so now I know what it looks like. It just turns gray. Okay, so I'll toss it out. Food, health, and safety, I guess related to retail. Once again, here's another blog here, just from, I don't know, brioche bread. I don't know what this says here. So signs of a spoiled sausage: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, discoloration. Fresh. So they're making this very clear here. Fresh sausage typically exhibits a vibrant pink or red hue. As it spoils, its color may change to a dull gray, green, or brown, right? Indicating the presence of harmful bacteria. 2 is slimy texture. Definitely toss it out. Slimy, that's actually a biofilm, right? That's what we call it. And it's actual pure bacteria. That's slime. It's pure. It's not just bacteria. It's all the byproducts and the proteins that are being released. It's waste products from the bacteria. It's bacteria literally growing and shitting all over your food. That's what that film is. Toss it out. Making the sausage unsafe for consumption. Lots of toxins in there. Off-putting color. 3, off-putting color. Nasty, like a mild meaty aroma is how it's supposed to be. If it's sour or rancid, obviously that means it's acidic. Toss it out. 4 is mold growth. It's just like, duh, no shit. 5, sour taste. 6, if the package has been bloated, you see that it's bloated because there's gas being released. So that's usually fermentative bacteria. So that's also bad, obviously. Oh shit, what the hell? Oh, I misclicked. I have to do this all over again. But I just read through this. I said there's another article here. Multiple signs of a spoiled sausage, 1 through 5. They make it very clear, right? What happens when in doubt, throw out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, discoloration. Fresh sausage typically exhibits a vibrant pink hue or red. So as it spoils, it may turn to dull gray. Presence of harmful bacteria, obviously. 2, slime. So that's interesting, right? Because I didn't know about the whole pink hue thing. But 2, slimy texture. Definitely toss it out, right? You don't want to do that. Slime, it's usually because we call that biofilm. It's not just bacteria, that's actual bacteria, plus all the byproducts, all the proteins that they release, so like the toxins and everything, and also like stuff that they use to adhere together and grow as a colony. So definitely toss that shit out. You don't want to do it. Off-putting color, meaty aroma, so it's supposed to be. If it's sour, then it's acidic, toss that out. Mold growth, obviously if it's got mold on it, toss that shit out. Mold, I think I talked about this already in the previous blog, but if there's mold on it, it's growing directly straight through the entire like food